Joining us to discuss, John Malcolm with the Heritage Foundation, an expert, and the Vice President of the Institute for Constitutional Government. John, thank you for coming on today. Now, the man there in the video, Antonio Brown, said that he doesn't plan on filing any charges in the incident. What did you make of the event that happened and also his calls to defund the police?
Well, I think that these defund the police movements are madness. So he wasn't alone. I think he and 6 other councilmen wanted to withhold $73 million out of a $218 million budget that the Atlanta Police Department has. I used to live in Atlanta. I understand from people who still do live there that crime is very much on the rise. And I think, his statement that even if these people are caught, he doesn't want to press charges. One, he doesn't get to make that decision. Prosecutors do. But I certainly think that if they are not charged and they steal somebody else's car, that the victim of that crime will be very, very grateful to Councilman Brown for not having pressed charges and taken these kids off of the street. I'd add, by the way, that Councilman Brown, it's rather ironic. He has himself been charged with a crime. He has federal charges for bank fraud pending against him, and one of the bank fraud charges is that he took out a fraudulent loan to buy the very car that these kids stole.
Very interesting tidbit there to this story. He had also mentioned that it was generational poverty that was to blame for these children's actions. And it makes you wonder, where are the parents when we see these instances take place? Where are the mentors in the community who are looking out for these kids and teaching them right from wrong?
Yeah, no, look, that is right. What is happening in some of the poorer parts of our country, urban areas, but really crime is everywhere, is really just terrible. And you wonder where the parents are, where values are. And I certainly think that people who come along and say, well, everything is just to blame, is all due to systemic racism. And really what we need to do is get rid of police departments, or some abolitionists, that's what they call themselves, take it even further and say we should get rid of police departments, prosecutors, jails, prisons, and courts. Well, I don't think that experiment would work very well.
Yeah. When it comes to issues of polling, right, this idea of defund the police, talk to me about how it doesn't resonate with voters when they look for politicians that take the stand on those issues.
Well, I'm not a pollster, but I think there is mixed data. I mean, there are certainly cities like Portland, Los Angeles that cut the police budgets. They're now really regretting it as crime has skyrocketed, and they are refunding and in some cases increasing budgets for police officers. But, police officers have taken a hit. It's very difficult to recruit police officers these days since it's no longer viewed by many as a noble profession. And there are a lot of progressive prosecutors who, are akin to these defund the police movements, and they are winning elections. So the data is mixed, but I do think that crime is going to rise and that this is a very, very bad mistake for society and for public safety.
Well, you mentioned progressive voices. I think of progressive politicians who would speak out in favor of defunding the police, and when they said it, they said, we mean defund the police. And yet these lawmakers are in Congress where they had, for such a long time, National Guards troops and high fences surrounding their workplace every day. Talk about protection. Do they think about these communities that would lack the protection that they would see when you do defund the police?
I don't know whether they think about that or not. It's the same people who have armed guards who live in gated communities who are most robustly in favor of gun control measures that would disarm law-abiding citizens who are trying to protect their homes and their property and their loved ones when the police are not available because they have been defunded. I think that a little bit more time out in these communities, finding out what people really, really want would be a good thing. It doesn't mean that the police practices can't change. They should be out in the communities finding out what the community wants too. But I do not think the criminals are going to sit there and say, oh, gee, I feel better now that there aren't police officers out there, so I think I'll stop committing crimes.
Yeah, very interesting. Always best for elected officials to actually speak and get in touch with the people who they are elected to represent. John Malcolm joining us with this political analysis. We appreciate it, John. Thanks so much.
Great to be with you.